Hello and welcome to part 2 of the off-campus housing video brought to you by Fast Education Consulting. I'm your host Ali Sachu, and in this video we will look at the nitty-gritties to pay attention to when choosing off-campus housing. FastEDU.ca, inspiring great minds. If you've stumbled upon this video before watching part 1, I recommend you check out the first version on the different types of accommodation available for off-campus housing. Before I begin, let's get sharing out of the way because it's something you can expect unless you're willing to pay a lot more. Otherwise, if it's too good to be true, you should probably do a little more investigation. What I mean by that is that it's important to ask all the questions you can before committing to a place, such as shared laundry facilities. How often can you use them? Apartment buildings, for example, typically have a paid laundry, which means you have to go to the basement or main floor to use a washer and a dryer by inserting coins, typically $2 or $3 for a wash and a dryer load. You might want to ask about kitchen use. Is it shared or do you get your own? Same with the refrigerator or even entrances to a unit. If it's a room in a house versus a basement apartment. One other important thing to consider is how you feel about sharing with others versus living by yourself. Keep in mind that the more people you're sharing with, the more complex the relationships get. You need to make sure that you have similar tastes and opinions about living together, such as cleaning, cooking, and so on. The next thing to consider is the area that you're renting your off-campus accommodation in. What is the distance from where you're renting to your college? How many buses will you have to change? Is it walkable? Is it safe? How far is the closest grocery store, a bank, a mall, in that area? All these questions are important to make a good decision on choosing your off-campus accommodation. Toronto is a big city, and therefore having a 20 to 30-minute commute is a normal thing. But I'd be worried if I'm starting to choose off-campus housing that is more than 30 minutes away or even longer, more than an hour away. Now, depending on your lifestyle, you might also be interested in knowing where your closest mosque is or temple is or religious facilities are. Next up is furnished versus unfurnished accommodation. If you have an unfurnished accommodation, you may want to consider the cost of buying a bed, a couch, and other furniture, as well as moving it into the accommodation and moving it out when you're moving to another location. You might also want to check if, internet services are included. Are your bills included, such as water, electricity, heating, and so on. Now, let's talk about how you can get an off-campus rental. Since most of you will not have a credit history in Canada, typically an apartment building or a condo owner will require you to provide a guarantor or maybe a larger sum of deposit just because they don't know you and you have no collateral. Now, you want to make sure that you understand the lease terms and the length of the lease, as well as the deposit that may be required, such as your first and last month's rent, or a key deposit, or a security deposit. Now we will briefly explore some pricing. However, this is changing all the time and may require a little more research at the time of your search. Probably the least expensive option will be to rent a room in someone's home or basement where they are renting to, multiple people. I typically recommend anywhere between $450 up to $700 for a room in a house. The last time I checked, apartment buildings cost an average of $1,000 for a bachelor unit. Condo buildings for the same bachelor unit may cost around $1,200, so it was a little more. If it's a one-bedroom, they would typically go for about $1,350 in a condo. An apartment building with 2 bedrooms might cost about $1,400 or $1,500 and can be shared between 2 renters. A condo building of a 2-bedroom unit might cost $1,600 or $1,700. A separate entrance basement apartment may be anywhere from $700 to up to $1,500, depending on the size the numbers of rooms available. So this is just to give you a rough idea and what it might cost to rent any one of these accommodations. The next question you might have would be where to find this type of off-campus accommodation. Now, there are numerous resources, including the student services at your college and websites such as realtor websites and kijiji.ca. And they have sections on apartment listings within those websites. Now, it is important to do your research at these places because they're not monitored and they're just offered as a means of service to connect a buyer and a seller. You can't simply trust someone because you spoke to them online or you found them through these websites or you sent them a note or talked to them on the phone. You have to do your investigation. This is a wrap for the two-part series. I hope that this has been a useful segment, and again, I'll encourage my viewers to discuss below in the comments section and share each other's ideas to help one another. Until next time, fastedu.ca, inspiring great minds.